I canceled my daughter's wedding because no one else would. My daughter Emma had been dating Marcus for 2 years before he proposed. He worked in real estate, drove a nice car, and always brought flowers when he came to family dinners. Everyone loved him. My husband said Marcus was the son he never had. My sister called Emma the luckiest girl alive, but something about Marcus made my stomach twist in ways I couldn't explain. Little things that nobody else seemed to notice. The first thing was his family. Marcus said his parents lived in Seattle and couldn't travel often due to his mother's health issues. In 2 years, we'd never met them. Not once. When I suggested we fly out to visit, Marcus always had a reason why it wasn't a good time. His mother was having tests done, his father was traveling for work. The timing just never worked out. I let it go because Emma was happy. She was 28, had a good job, and Marcus treated her well in front of us, but I started paying closer attention. At the engagement party, Marcus spent 20 minutes outside on his phone. When he came back in, I asked who he was talking to. He said it was a work call, but I'd walked past the window and heard him speaking softly, calling someone sweetheart. His voice had a tenderness I'd never heard him use with Emma. I told my husband what I heard, and he laughed it off. He said Marcus probably has a nickname for his real estate clients. I felt crazy for even mentioning it. The wedding planning started, and Marcus insisted on handling the guest list for his side. He said he had 60 people coming, mostly family and college friends. But when Emma asked for addresses to send invitations, he kept stalling. He'd get them next week, then the week after. Finally, he gave her a list, but something felt off about it. I did something I'm not proud of. I looked up a few names from his guest list online. 3 of them didn't seem to exist anywhere. No social media, no work profiles, nothing. When I mentioned it to Emma, she got defensive. She said I was being paranoid and that not everyone lives their life online. Marcus overheard, and his expression flickered for just a second before he smiled and said his family was very private, old-fashioned. That's all. But I saw that flicker, that brief moment where something cold passed behind his eyes. 2 months before the wedding, I drove to the address Marcus had listed as his apartment. He'd told Emma he lived in a high-rise downtown. When I got there, it was a UPS store, just rows of mailboxes and a counter selling shipping supplies. I sat in my car for 30 minutes trying to understand what I was looking at. I hired a private investigator. I know how that sounds. My husband would have been furious if he knew, but I needed answers that nobody else was looking for. The investigator called me a week later. She said Marcus had no credit history before 5 years ago. No records at all. It was like he appeared out of nowhere at age 32. She found 3 other women in different states who'd been engaged to men matching his description and photos. All the engagements ended abruptly. 2 of the women had given him large sums of money for business investments that never existed. The third had added him to her bank accounts 2 weeks before he vanished completely. She also found something else, a marriage certificate from Nevada. Marcus was still legally married to a woman named Diane, who'd filed a police report 3 years ago, claiming he'd cleaned out their joint accounts and disappeared. I took everything to Emma. I showed her the documents, the police report, the other women's stories. She looked at it all and then looked at me with tears streaming down her face. She said I was trying to ruin her happiness because I couldn't stand seeing her succeed at something I'd failed at. She said my own marriage problems were making me project onto hers. Then she told me to leave and not come back until I apologized. My husband sided with Emma. He said I'd gone too far, invaded Marcus's privacy, and manufactured a conspiracy theory because I couldn't let go of my daughter. He slept in the guest room that night. I was alone with evidence that nobody would believe. The wedding was in 6 weeks, and the deposits were paid, and the dress was altered, and the flowers were ordered. Everyone was going forward like nothing was wrong. So I made the calls myself. I canceled the venue first, then the caterer, then the florist, the photographer, the DJ. I dismantled every piece of my daughter's dream wedding, while my phone exploded with calls I didn't answer. The confrontation happened 3 days later when Emma showed up at my house with Marcus beside her. She was screaming before she even got through the door, but Marcus was calm, too calm. He stood behind her with his hands in his pockets and watched me with those cold eyes. Then he smiled and said we should talk privately, just the 2 of us, because he had some questions about exactly what I thought I knew. But what he said next made me realize I'd made a terrible mistake. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I have proof, Marcus says, his voice soft but confident. I have proof that everything your mother told you is a misunderstanding. Emma stands frozen beside him, her eyes darting between us. The living room feels smaller suddenly, the air heavy with tension. You hired a private investigator to follow me, Marcus continues, his tone more sad than angry. I understand why you were concerned. I really do. But what she found? It's not what you think. I grip the edge of the sofa, steadying myself. I saw the marriage certificate, Marcus. I saw the police report. He nods slowly, reaching for his phone. I know, and I'm going to explain everything. He scrolls through his phone for a moment before handing it to Emma. This is a restraining order I filed against Diane 3 years ago. She's not my wife, she's my stalker. Emma's eyes widen as she reads the document. I strain to see what she's looking at, but I'm too far away. Diane and I dated briefly 6 years ago, Marcus explains. When I broke things off, she didn't take it well. She started showing up at my workplace, calling at all hours. Then she somehow got a fake marriage certificate and started telling people we were married. My mouth goes dry. The investigator found 3 other women, who all ended their relationships with me when Diane started harassing them. Marcus interrupts. She's destroyed every serious relationship I've tried to have. That's why I changed my name, why I keep a low profile online. I've been trying to escape her for years. Emma hands the phone back to Marcus, her face hardened with anger directed at me. Mom, how could you do this? You've been so determined to ruin this for me. The address? I say desperately. Your apartment is a UPS store, Marcus sighs. I use a mail forwarding service for security. After After what happened with Diane, I don't give out my real address easily. I should have explained, but it's embarrassing to admit you're being stalked. What about the phone call at the engagement party? I ask, grasping at the pieces that don't fit. I heard you calling someone sweetheart. My cousin's daughter, he says without hesitation. Emma steps closer to Marcus, physically positioning herself against me. You canceled our wedding. You went behind everyone's backs and destroyed everything we planned. I was trying to protect you, I whisper. Marcus puts his arm around Emma's shoulders. I think your mother loves you very much, he says gently. She was misled by incomplete information. But I have to say, Emma, this level of interference is concerning. My husband appears in the doorway, having listened to the whole exchange. His face is flushed with anger. I can't believe you went this far, he says to me. You hired a private investigator? You canceled their wedding without even talking to us? I had evidence, I insist, but my voice sounds weak even to my own ears. Marcus looks at Emma with sad eyes. Maybe we should consider what this means for our future. If your mother is willing to go to these lengths now, what will happen when we have children? Emma's face crumples. She's never liked you. She's been looking for reasons since day one. That's not true. I protest, but Emma isn't listening. I think, Marcus says carefully, you might need to consider some distance from your mother, at least until she gets help for whatever is driving this behavior. My husband steps fully into the room. Marcus, Emma, I am so sorry. I had no idea she would do something like this. I understand, Marcus says magnanimously. This isn't your fault. She's been different lately, my husband continues, as if I'm not even there. More paranoid, more controlling. Emma wipes tears from her face. We're going to rebook everything, and I don't want you involved, Mom, at all. My husband turns to me, his voice low and threatening. If you interfere again, if you try to come between Emma and Marcus, our marriage is over. I mean it. After they leave, I sit alone in the silence of our house, doubt creeping in. Could I have been wrong? Could the investigator have misunderstood? I call her immediately. I need more, I tell her when she answers. Concrete proof, something irrefutable. I'll see what I can do, she promises. 2 days later, she sends me an email with several attachments. When I open the first photo, my heart stops. It's Marcus, sitting at an outdoor cafe in Seattle 3 weeks ago, his arm around a young woman who is definitely not Emma. In the second photo, he's kissing her. The investigator's note is brief. Current girlfriend, name is Melissa Winters, lives in Seattle. They've been dating for a year, according to her social media. I print the photos with shaking hands. Marcus isn't just a con man. He's running multiple cons simultaneously. And now he's convinced my daughter to cut me out of her life entirely, leaving her even more vulnerable. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma. Marcus and I have rebooked everything. Wedding is in 10 days. Don't bother coming. I stare at the photos spread across my kitchen table. 10 days. I have 10 days to save my daughter from the biggest mistake of her life. I've never seen anyone move as quickly as Marcus did after our confrontation. Within 48 hours, he had rebooked everything I'd canceled. The venue, caterer, photographer, even the same DJ. The only difference was the date. 10 days from now. Not 6 weeks. 10 days. He says it's because he doesn't want to give you time to interfere again. My husband tells me over breakfast, not meeting my eyes. He's been sleeping in the guest room since our fight. Emma thinks it's romantic. I stare at my untouched coffee. Did you see the photos I showed you? Photoshopped, he mutters, scrolling through his phone. Marcus explained everything. The investigator you hired has a history of falsifying evidence. That's not true. I protest, but he's already walking away, coffee in hand. My phone buzzes with an alert. Emma has blocked me on social media. When I try calling, it goes straight to voicemail. My texts remain undelivered. My own daughter has completely cut me out of her life. That night, I make a decision I never thought I'd make. I follow Marcus. I wait outside his office building until I see him leave around 7 p.m. He doesn't drive to the high-rise downtown where he claimed to live. Instead, he heads to a modest apartment complex on the east side of town. I park across the street and watch as he punches in a code and disappears inside. The next morning, I return and wait in my car until I see him leave for work. Then I approach the building, pretending to be delivering food until someone exits, allowing me to slip inside. I find the apartment number I saw him enter, 3B, and use the key the private investigator gave me. She called it a bump key and assured me it would work on most standard locks. My heart pounds as I enter. The apartment is sparsely furnished but meticulously organized. In the bedroom, I find a locked filing cabinet. It takes me 15 minutes of searching before I locate a key taped beneath a nightstand. Inside the cabinet, I discover what I've been looking for. Evidence. Driver's licenses with Marcus's photo, but different names. Credit cards for each identity. Notebooks filled with personal information about different women, including Emma. Details about their families, their finances, their vulnerabilities. I take photos of everything with shaking hands. As I'm replacing the files, I notice a folder labeled Properties. Inside are documents for 3 different homes, one in Seattle, one in Portland, and one in Boise, all purchased within the last 5 years. My investigator calls as I'm leaving the apartment. I found Diane, she says. She's living in Spokane now. She's willing to talk to you. 2 hours later, I'm on a video call with a woman in her early 30s. She looks nothing like I expected. Not some desperate ex, but a composed professional woman with tired eyes. I met Marcus. I knew him as David at a charity event, she explains. He was charming, attentive. We were married 6 months later. She pauses, collecting herself. By the time I realized something was wrong, he'd already emptied our joint accounts. $120,000 gone. When I confronted him, he disappeared. Did he show you a restraining order? I ask. He's telling my daughter you're his stalker. Diane laughs bitterly. That's his pattern. He turns everyone against anyone who might expose him. There was never any restraining order. I filed police reports in 3 states trying to find him. I'm so engrossed in our conversation that I don't hear the front door open. My husband's voice makes me me jump. "What the hell are you doing?" he demands, staring at my laptop screen where Diane's face is visible. "Are you serious with this? After everything we talked about?" I slam the laptop closed. "I can explain." "No," he cuts me off. "No more explanations, no more investigations. This has to stop. Emma called me in tears because you were parked outside their venue today taking photos. She thinks you're having some kind of breakdown." "I wasn't at any venue," I protest. I stop myself. I can't admit I broke into Marcus's apartment. "I've had enough," my husband says, his voice dangerously quiet. "If you don't stop this, I'm calling our lawyer. I'll file for separation." I mean it. He leaves, and I sit frozen at the kitchen table. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma, the first communication in days. "Marcus and I added each other to our bank accounts today. We're officially partners in everything now. I wish you could be happy for us." Cold fear washes over me. I call the investigator immediately. "Can you check Emma's accounts?" I ask urgently. "I need to know if there's been any unusual activity." 3 hours later, she calls back. "There's been a transfer from her retirement account," she says. $75,000 moved to an account in Seattle yesterday." "That's impossible," I whisper. "She'd need authorization." "The paperwork was submitted 2 days ago with her signature. The money's already gone." I sink to the floor, clutching the phone. 10 days until the wedding. My daughter's accounts are already being drained. My husband won't believe me, and Emma won't even speak to me. I have to do something drastic, something I never imagined I'd do. I need to find proof that not even Marcus can explain away. I know what I'm about to do is illegal, breaking and entering, possible jail time. But as I stand outside Emma's apartment building at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, I realize I've run out of options. Emma's at work. Marcus is showing properties across town. I have a 20-minute window, maximum. My hands shake as I use the spare key Emma gave us years ago for emergencies. This certainly qualifies. Inside, the apartment smells like Emma's favorite vanilla candles mixed with Marcus's cologne. Wedding magazines are scattered across the coffee table. A countdown calendar on the refrigerator reads, 10 days until forever begins, in Emma's handwriting. My stomach turns. I head straight for Emma's home office. She keeps important documents in the filing cabinet beside her desk: birth certificate, passport, financial records. The drawer slides open smoothly, and I flip through the tabs until I find banking. What I see makes me sink to the floor. Printouts of recent transactions, 3 separate transfers over the past week, totaling $75,000, all going to an account I don't recognize. The signature on the authorization forms is Emma's, but something about it looks off, slightly too perfect, too deliberate. I take photos of everything with my phone, hands trembling so badly I have to steady myself against the desk. As I'm replacing the documents, I hear the unmistakable sound of a key in the front door. My heart stops. I freeze, papers still in my hand, as Emma walks in. She's home early. Our eyes meet across the apartment, and for one long moment, neither of us speaks. "Mom?" Her voice is barely audible. "What are you doing here?" I stand up slowly, documents still clutched in my hand. "Emma," I can explain. "Are those my bank statements?" Her eyes widen as she drops her purse on the counter. "You broke into my apartment to go through my financial records?" "Emma, please, just look at these transfers." I hold out the papers, but she backs away like I'm holding something dangerous. "Marcus has taken $75,000 from your accounts in the past week alone. I know about the transfers," she says, her voice cold. "We're buying property in Seattle. It's our first investment together." "There is no property," I insist. "I've seen proof. Marcus has multiple identities. He's done this before." Emma's face hardens. "You're obsessed. You need professional help, Mom. This has gone way beyond normal concern." "Please," I beg, stepping toward her. "Just look at what I found. Get out." Her voice is steel. "Get out before I call the police." The front door opens again, and Marcus walks in. His eyes take in the scene, me holding Emma's financial documents, Emma near tears, the open filing cabinet. I expect anger, outrage, but instead, his face shows only calm concern. "What's happening?" he asks, moving to Emma's side. "She broke into our apartment," Emma says, her voice breaking. "She was going through our financial records." Marcus puts his arm around Emma's shoulders. "I think your mother might be having some kind of episode," he says gently. "Maybe we should call someone to help her." "I'm not having an episode," I snap. "I'm trying to protect my daughter from a con man who's already stolen $75,000 from her." Marcus sighs deeply, the picture of patience. "Emma, maybe you should call the police. This is breaking and entering." Emma hesitates, and for a moment, I see a flicker of the daughter I raised, the one who would never believe I'd do something like this without good reason. But then Marcus squeezes her shoulder, and her expression hardens. "I'm calling them," she says, reaching for her phone. "Emma, please," I beg. "Just listen." "No, you listen." She cuts me off. "This is the last straw. You've gone completely off the deep end, breaking into our home, going through our private documents." As Emma makes the call, Marcus approaches me. "You should put those papers back," he says quietly. I clutch them tighter. "I know what you're doing." He leans in, his voice so low only I can hear it. "You have no idea what I'm capable of," he whispers, his smile never wavering. "Back off before you lose everything, not just Emma." A chill runs through me. For the first time, I see the predator behind the charming mask. The police arrive 15 minutes later. 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female. They listen as Emma explains finding me in her apartment with her financial documents. I try to explain about Marcus, about the evidence I found, but I can hear how unhinged I sound. "She's been acting increasingly paranoid," Marcus explains to the officers. "We're worried about her mental state." "He's stealing from my daughter," I insist. "He's done this before. I have proof." The female officer looks at me with professional sympathy. "Ma'am, do you have permission to be in this apartment?" "I have a key," I say weakly. "That doesn't mean permission," she explains gently, "especially if you were told not to come." My husband arrives just as the officers are explaining that Emma could press charges for breaking and entering. He looks at me with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. apartment. I'll handle this, he tells the officers. She won't come back here again. Dad, Emma says, her voice breaking. She needs help, real help. My husband nods solemnly. I know, sweetheart. I'll take care of it. The officers decide not to arrest me after my husband promises to take me home immediately. As we're leaving, Emma makes an announcement that stops me cold. We've decided to elope, she says, not looking at me. We're flying to Las Vegas tomorrow. We'll be married by this time tomorrow. Emma, please, I whisper, but my husband pulls me toward the door. In the car, he won't look at me. I don't even know who you are anymore, he says quietly. Breaking into our daughter's apartment, going through her personal documents? What were you thinking? I was thinking about protecting our daughter, I say, staring out the window. Marcus has already taken $75,000 from her accounts. By tomorrow, he'll have access to everything. Stop it, my husband snaps. Just stop. Emma showed me the investment paperwork. They're buying property together in Seattle. It's completely legitimate. I say nothing. There's nothing left to say that he'll believe. When we get home, I go straight to my computer and book a ticket to Las Vegas for tomorrow morning. I pack a small bag while my husband showers. I call the private investigator and tell her to meet me at the Las Vegas courthouse tomorrow afternoon. This is my last chance to save Emma. If I fail, I'll lose my daughter forever and she'll lose everything she has. I'm on the Las Vegas-bound plane wearing oversized sunglasses, a baseball cap pulled low, and a blonde wig I bought at a costume shop this morning. The disguise feels ridiculous, but it's all I have left. My husband thinks I'm at my sister's house, getting the help I need. In reality, I'm 30,000 feet in the air, pursuing what might be my final chance to save my daughter. The flight attendant offers me a drink, and I order a vodka tonic with shaking hands. The elderly woman beside me smiles sympathetically. Wedding or divorce? She asks. Excuse me? People only fly to Vegas looking that nervous for weddings or divorces, she explains. Sometimes both. I manage a weak smile. My daughter's getting married. Ah, she nods knowingly. And you don't approve of the groom. I take a long sip of my drink. He's stolen $75,000 from her already. The woman blinks, clearly not expecting that response. Well, she says after a moment, that would certainly explain the disguise. The plane lands at 11:30 a.m. As passengers around me grab their luggage and phones, I check mine. A text from Emma. Getting married at 3 p.m. at the Golden Rose Chapel. Not that you care. I have 3.5 hours. In the terminal bathroom, I call Diane. I'm in Vegas. I tell her. I'll be there, she promises. My flight lands at 1:15. The detective is meeting me at baggage claim. Thank you, I whisper, my voice breaking. I know this can't be easy for you. I've spent 3 years trying to find him, Diane says. I'm not missing this chance. The Golden Rose Chapel sits between a discount liquor store and a pawn shop. Its peeling pink facade, a sad parody of romance. I position myself across the street at a coffee shop with a clear view of the entrance. At 1:45 p.m., I spot Emma arriving in a simple white dress, Marcus at her side, his arm possessively around her waist. My phone vibrates with a text from Diane. At courthouse. No record of marriage license application today. I text back. They're at Golden Rose Chapel on Flamingo Road. On our way, she responds. Detective bringing backup. At 2:30 p.m., I see a taxi pull up. Diane steps out, followed by a man in a suit who must be the detective. They approach the chapel but don't enter, instead positioning themselves near the entrance. My heart pounds so hard I can barely breathe. At 2:45 p.m., I can't wait any longer. I cross the street, removing my sunglasses and wig as I approach. Diane sees me first, her eyes widening in recognition from the video call. He's inside? She asks. I nod. The detective introduces himself as Frank Morales. We have officers stationed at the back exit, he explains. Las Vegas PD is cooperating fully given the fraud evidence we've compiled. What happens now? I ask. We wait for him to come out, then make the arrest, Morales says, less volatile than interrupting the ceremony. I shake my head. By then, he'll be married to my daughter. I need to stop this now. Before they can respond, I push through the chapel doors. Inside, it's garishly decorated with fake roses and gold lame drapery. I follow the sound of an organ playing "Here Comes the Bride" to a small room where Emma stands at a makeshift altar with Marcus, an Elvis impersonator officiating. I object! I shout, the words bursting from me before I can think. Emma whirls around, her face transforming from shock to fury. Mom, what the hell are you doing here? Marcus turns more slowly, his expression calculating rather than surprised. When he sees me, his eyes narrow, but the smile stays fixed on his face. Mrs. Thompson, he says smoothly. This is a private ceremony. Not anymore, I say, as Diane and Detective Morales enter behind me. Marcus's face changes instantly when he sees Diane. The color drains from his cheeks, and for the first time, I see genuine fear in his eyes. What is this? Emma demands, looking between us. Emma, I say gently. I'd like you to meet Diane, Marcus's wife. Ex-wife? Marcus corrects quickly, recovering his composure. I told you about her, Emma. My stalker. Diane steps forward, her voice steady. We were never divorced, David. Or should I call you Marcus now? Or maybe James Wilson? That was the name you used in Portland, wasn't it? Emma's eyes dart between them, confusion clouding her face. Marcus, what is she talking about? Before he can answer, Detective Morales moves forward, badge in hand. Marcus Stevens. I'm Detective Morales with the Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to ask you some questions about several instances of fraud across multiple states. Marcus looks around wildly, like a cornered animal. His eyes lock on the side exit, and he suddenly bolts, shoving past the Elvis impersonator who falls into a display of artificial flowers. Stop him, Morales shouts, but Marcus is already halfway to the door. He doesn't make it. Two uniformed officers appear in the doorway, blocking his escape. As they handcuff him, Emma sinks into a chair, her face ashen. Emma, I say, moving toward her. Don't, she whispers, holding up a hand. Just don't. Diane approaches her cautiously. closely, sitting in the chair beside her. I know this is impossible to process right now, she says gently. I felt the same way 3 years ago when he disappeared with our money. Emma looks up, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand. We were buying property together. He showed me the paperwork. Diane reaches into her purse and pulls out a small velvet box. Inside is an engagement ring identical to the one on Emma's finger. He gave me this 5 years ago, Diane explains. It's his pattern. The whirlwind romance, the quick engagement, the joint accounts. Then he disappears. Emma stares at the ring, her entire body trembling. I added him to my accounts, she whispers. Everything I have. Detective Morales approaches us, his expression grim. Ma'am, he says to Emma, I'm afraid there's something you should know. We've been monitoring your accounts since your mother contacted us. There was a large withdrawal this morning from your primary savings account. Nearly everything. Emma's phone chimes with a banking alert. She looks at it, then at me, her face crumpling. It's gone, she whispers. All of it. Everything I've saved since college. I wrap my arms around my daughter as she finally collapses against me, sobbing. Over her shoulder, I watch as the officers lead Marcus away, his face a mask of cold indifference. 6 months later, Emma and I sit in my garden, drinking tea and watching butterflies dance around the flowers. The healing has been slow, painful, but real. The prosecutor called, she says, stirring honey into her cup. Marcus took a plea deal. 8 years with possibility of parole after 5. I nod. How do you feel about that? Relieved, she admits. I didn't want to testify. The investigation uncovered everything. 7 women across 5 states, nearly $500,000 stolen, multiple identities, all meticulously crafted. Marcus, whose real name turned out to be Paul Henley, had been running cons for over a decade. Dad called yesterday, Emma says quietly. He asked if I'd have dinner with both of you next week. My husband's apology came 3 months after Vegas, when the full extent of Marcus's crimes became clear. Our marriage is still fragile, rebuilding slowly on a foundation of humility and forgiveness. I'd like that, I say. Emma reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. You know what still gets me? How easily I believed him over you, how completely I fell for everything. He was a professional, honey. That's what they do. She nods, blinking back tears. Thank you for not giving up on me. As we sit in comfortable silence, I think about how close we came to disaster, how one decision to cancel that wedding, to follow that instinct, changed everything. Sometimes love means risking everything, even the relationship itself, to protect someone from harm. Sometimes the hardest choice is the only one worth making.